Now we're going to move on to Emily Lane from NIWA. Over to you, Emily.
Kia ora tātou, ko Emily Lane Takawingoa. As Belinda said, I'm going to be talking about the rapid flood hazard assessment and modelling for Cyclone Gabrielle recovery. So this is focusing on Tairāwhiti and Hawke's Bay, and it's going to be leveraging quite a lot of the information from James Brasington's talk yesterday. But yeah, sort of firstly, we're providing flood hazard information as fast as we can, if possible, to provide some immediate protection over the winter months, just so that we've got some understanding of that, and to build back in a more resilient fashion. So what we will also want to understand is what this event tells us about the likelihood of similar events happening again in the near future, especially with a changing climate. And also sort of talking about that final point that James had, there's going to be changes to the riverbeds from sediment that will have altered the flood hazard in these rivers, and that's probably going to be going on for decades to come as that sediment moves its way down to the sea. Obviously this project won't sort of be able to predict that, but at least understand what the current hazard is and have models so that, you know, as those changes happen, that we can come back and we can reassess using that same model what the flood hazard is. So yeah, the outcomes and the stakeholders end users. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is sort of looking at the flood frequency curves, and given this event, it's going to make a big change potentially to what we actually see. So we're going to be recalculating those flood hazard curves, and it's the outputs are going to be used by the district and regional councils, iwi, hapū, and also central government agencies. We're also doing a rapid assessment of the new flood inundation hazard, including the updated flood frequency curves and the effect of sediment. So we're actually going to, where there doesn't already exist flood models, we'll develop rapid flood models and calibrate them on the Cyclone Gabrielle event, and also work with the regional council and the Gisborne District Council where they already have models, and just sort of help feed into those models just to sort of get a really good understanding of the flood hazard, and using both the original LiDAR and also using the LiDAR that we get from James's work after the event, because the tricky thing is that sediment actually came down during the flooding, and we're not actually able to model the water and the sediment together, but by modeling the flood as it happened in the pre-LiDAR and in the post-LiDAR, we can get an envelope of what that change actually is. We're also, obviously you'll know that there was a lot of stop banks that were overtopped and breached during this event, so we'll be looking at residual risk of some of those stop banks, and so looking at some stop bank failures. We're working with Kaylee Crawford Flatt to sort of map out what some of those stop bank failures that we should be measuring, or stop bank breaches, should I say, that we should be measuring, just to sort of understand that residual risk, because that can be a really important part, and look at some recommendations for future flood resilience work in Tairāwhiti and Hawke's Bay, and that'll be sort of bringing that together with the Gisborne District Council and the Hawke's Bay District Council. And then sort of finally, in terms of what we're doing, so next week on the 14th of June, we're actually going to be having an in-person workshop in Napier, where we'll work with the people from Gisborne District Council, Hawke's Bay District Council, and various other stakeholders, and just sort of stock take what's happened already, because it's a rapidly sort of moving area, and we don't want to sort of just repeat work if it's already happened, but just do that stock take of where we're at, what still needs to be done, look at knowledge gap identification and prioritisation of, you know, where to best sort of focus for the first lot of the flood models, and then sort of complete these rapid flood hazard reassessments at the prioritised locations, and eventually sort of work through all of those locations in Hawke's Bay and in Tairāwhiti, just to make sure that we have information for all those locations, and also sort of look at the flood frequency curves. So in many cases we don't actually know how much water came down, because the gauges actually got taken out by the event, and so we actually need to do the modelling to work out how much water came down, so there's a bit of a sort of iterative process there, and then use that to sort of look at the hazard curves. But again, all of this information will be made available as soon as possible throughout the project and updated iteratively. We've already done some very preliminary stuff that we've fed into the risk proposal that Sarah McDermott will be talking about next. And then with the final wrap up, we'll have a second stakeholder workshop in person where we'll just sort of pull together what we've done, look at the feedback, look at the next steps, and ideally we're hoping to have that in Gisborne. But yeah, if you've got any questions, please contact myself or Liam Foster, and thank you very much.